You are listening to Be Amplified, the podcast with Bri and Thaís, episode number 7. Hey Amplifiers, welcome to Be Amplified, the podcast. My name is Thaís.
And I'm Bri Seeley. We are the co-founders of the Amplify Collective,
a movement aimed at radically disrupting how purpose-driven women connect and operate in the world.
Because we believe it's not just what you do, but who you are that matters.
Each week, join us for messages and interviews that will leave you feeling amplified and ready to change the world.
Let's do this.
Hey, Thaís here, Bri here. We're so excited. We're always excited when we get to share a podcast with you because podcasting has just become our favorite new thing, and we're obsessed, and we've received so many amazing comments from you guys, and we just love you, and we're excited to be here. And
podcasting days are our favorites. So for those of you that don't know, when Thaís and I get together to do a day of podcasting, we do marathon podcasting sessions. So we record multiple interviews all at the same time, and man, they're intense days, but I just leave feeling so full after them.
It feels so good to showcase amazing experts. I mean, these are brilliant people. We showcase men and women who are just living an amplified life. And it's so fun to get to dive into their stories and to share with you what they're about and how, there's so many different ways that you can live an amplified life. It doesn't have to look like one way.
Yeah. Today's podcast is a little bit different. Today is just Thaís and I. We are not interviewing anyone today. And we wanted to dive into a topic that is so incredibly prevalent in everyone's lives nowadays.
Yeah.
It's something that those of us that are our age, have had to learn to adapt to. It's not something we were born into, like the ones that are younger than us. And something that is just such a powerful both can be a tool and a detriment to our lives, and that is
social media
and
the online world in general. Okay, do you remember your first attempts at social media, like your first kind of access to social media?
I do. It was I was back in the States between my 2 times in Italy. And I was up in Fargo visiting some friends from college, and I was sitting on my friend's couch drinking, and she's like, "There's this new thing. It's called Facebook." And I guess MySpace was there before that, but I never got into MySpace.
Oh, you weren't
ever.
into MySpace?
I was never a MySpacer.
Oh, you're lucky.
And she was like, "There's this new thing. It's called Facebook." And at the time I was getting ready to go back over to Europe, and I was like, I want that because I miss everyone so much. I'm in this brilliant place with these amazing people, and I'm creating this whole new experience for myself, and I miss home so much. And so it was a really brilliant way for me to be in communication and connection with the people back in the States when I was in Europe. And those were back in the days when you had to have a college email address to get on Facebook.
Oh, I remember. And I may be aging myself here young. Most people say aging themselves. Okay, anyway. Because when I got into Facebook, it was, I think, 2 to 3 years after it had launched, and I was able to access it because I got early admissions to BU. So I got a BU email address before most of my senior friends had access to it. And so I was one of the first of my class to get on Facebook, and it was something I was so proud of, being able to connect with the previous seniors on Facebook and connect with them and then tell my friends what they're up to. And it was a really cool way of accessing people beyond just phone numbers. And I don't know, for me, I loved it. I loved it much more than MySpace, because with MySpace, the whole top 5 friends thing was insane for poor girls in their middle school, high school, tender years, where you're like still learning who you are. And suddenly, whether or not you're in someone's top 5 becomes such a identity, and you just get so wrapped around this idea of needing to be people's number 1 or number 2. And it was just, I don't know, I kind of feel not bad, of course, but just a little bit like tender towards the middle school girls now that have Snapchat and Instagram and just so many other ways that bullying can happen, which is really heartbreaking. But for me, AIM was another big one, and then MySpace, and then Facebook. And at first, it was really great. And then it stopped being so great.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Facebook first came out, it was my friends writing on my wall and me writing on their walls.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
It wasn't.
You couldn't tag people.
I don't even think it had a place for you to write on your own wall.
I don't think
I'm pretty
so.
sure. Like you could only post messages on other people's
And then
walls.
there was the Thais is. And you
Yes.
had to complete the sentence with an it. Thais is what? And now, of course, I love Time Hop, the app, because I get to see some of my earlier Facebook statuses, and they're so cute and funny. Some of them are like, Thais is sad. And I'm like, really, Thais? Past Thais? Little Thais? That's what you chose to share with the world that day? But, you know.
It's really interesting though to see how it's evolved. You know, it evolved from other people basically giving you messages and sending you positivity and all that stuff, which I'm sure there was some negativity as well, but not in my experience of Facebook. And it's evolved to this place where we're just promoting, you know, ourselves, or it's almost this like narcissistic kind of vibe to it. And, you know, Thais and I recently read a study about the direct correlation of social media on depression. And this is one of the first studies that has directly looked at this impact. So there have been other studies that have kind of like alluded to it, but not directly measured it. And this was the first one. It just came out in April and from Pittsburgh, and it basically said that there is a significant increase in depression concurrently with the increase in usage of social media.
I mean, it makes sense when we look at how everyone else is living such a perfect life, because that's what we choose to share online. It's such a perfect image of ourselves. And then we look at our lives and how broken we are and how we're not where we want to be. It's very easy to fall into what I call comparitis, which is just a state of dis-ease in our minds where we compare ourselves so fervently with others, hoping somehow that it will ultimately culminate in us succeeding. But it doesn't. It just leads us to feeling more lonely, more disconnected. And I can totally see how it can lead to depression.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that people rely so heavily on this quote unquote connection that we experience online that they almost forget or overlook that this was simply intended to be a tool to connect us, but it's not the be all end all for connection.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, that's obviously why we created the Amplify Collective. That's why we create these in events in person, and take the yuck out of networking, because we don't want the yuckiness of networking to be another reason why you hide on social media. And I totally honor businesses that have grown just by being an online business. I think that's so powerful and so amazing. And I want to take a moment to really honor the internet and honor social media as a tool that allows us to amplify our message. And I'll talk a little bit later on about that too. And we have to make sure that we have a proper relationship with it. And
Yeah.
we're seeing in our community that a lot of women's, particularly because that's how our events cater to, but women and men have a disoriented relationship with social media where they really depend on it for a sense of love and belonging that is just non-existent because it's online, it's not in person.
And the other thing that fascinates me too is the generations coming up, that they have never lived without this,
Yeah.
and they don't know any other way but it. You know,
Yeah.
I remember being little and having to like walk over to my friend's house to go play with her. And now all you have to do is jump online and see what other people are doing, and you don't have to engage with anyone. And I think it's a really I think it's almost it's a huge detriment, I think, because it doesn't give people the communication skills and the in-person connection, and there's so many different ways that it really hinders you know, the generation that's coming up behind us.
I remember when, if you wanted to get online, you had to kick off the person on the landline, and you had to like unplug the landline and plug in the internet. And if your dad or mom needed to make a phone call, you had to be kicked out. And then it
Yeah.
would take like 10 minutes of dial up for you to hopefully get dialed in. And yeah, so we're
And
seeing,
now I mean everyone's just always connected.
yeah, we're always connected.
There's no disconnection, there's no turning off, there's none of that stuff.
Yeah. And so what we're saying and what we're seeing is that loneliness and depression and comparitis is directly linked with social media, but it doesn't have to be that way. In
Mhm.
fact, the internet and social media can be something really positive. And it first requires you to really look at what your relationship with social media is. Are you seeking social media for validation of your own happiness? Are you seeking social media as proof that you are living the cool life that you are? Or are you using social media simply as a tool to not only communicate your message, but also to connect with people offline? And so really notice right now, take a second to ask yourself, is social media adding to my life or is it taking away? Is it becoming a nightmare or is it becoming a platform of connection? The more awareness you can develop around your specific relationship with social media, that more you can change it, right? You first have to develop an awareness around what's coming up before you can actually change it.
And the other thing I always like to mention as well is that social media is an illusion. I mean, so much of it is an illusion. We don't see the behind the scenes stuff of the people that are posting. I mean, there was that article that came out about that one girl not too long ago. She was a blogger and she was getting paid to do all that stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she just hated it. She hated all the products she was plugging. Yet from the outside, it looked like she had this perfect life and
Yeah.
she was leading, all of these perfect things. And I think she showed in one of the articles all of the behind the scenes photos or the like trial test photos that
Yeah.
it took for her to get like the one good one.
And I have to say, I think that's why the rise of Snapchat is becoming a thing. Because Snapchat, you can't really fake it. You can't really buy followers. It's not even about the likes. We'll snap something and then you can see how many people have seen it, but you don't know if they liked it or don't liked it. So it removes kind of that validation of social media. And so if you guys are on Snapchat, we're there too at the Amplify Co. And we just snapped today, us sitting, in our a little space where we're podcasting, and it's not romantic. I mean, I have no makeup on. I just put on a bra, but I'm like wearing the t-shirt I slept in. And Bri comes over here at 7 a.m, so she's not like looking all proper and put together either. And it's fine because we're just sitting here podcasting for you guys.
Yeah,
But
like this is our life. Thais is even a little sick today too. And so she snapped something about what it looks like to be sick and be having a runny nose and sneezing while you're podcasting. And so we're loving Snapchat so far. We're going to be doing a heck of a lot more of it in the future. And it gives much more of like an in-depth, behind the scenes, real view of what is going on in our lives. Don't get me wrong, as much as I love, love, love Instagram,
it's still too much
we're
of an illusion.
it is, and we're both really excited to kind of dive into this world of Snapchat so
Yeah.
that we can really truly show people what it looks like to be two like badass boss leaders of not only our own businesses but also a movement. And as we're bringing on a team this summer and like what that looks like to be leaders of other people that are depending on us.
Yeah, we want you
So
guys to learn from us. Like, we're not here in an isolated experience. We're having a human experience, and we want to show you what it all looks like. And it's not always glamorous, but that's okay. It's not about the glamour. And that's why, again, it's all about your relationship with social media. Bri and I both made a commitment early on in creating Amplify that we wanted to be vulnerable and be open. And so you can ask us any questions. You can ask us how much we made. You can ask us how many people are in our membership. Like, you can ask us and we'll answer because we have nothing to hide, one. And two, because we want to use social media as a platform for vulnerability and not a platform to put us up on a pedestal and look, down upon you guys, because that's not what we're all about. So of course we have expertise. Of course we have years of experience growing businesses. And, I've been studying leadership and psychology and spirituality since I was 16 years old. And Bri has gone through so much of her own experiences and her own trainings and her own stuff that of course we both have a lot of experiences, and that allows us to teach. And it's not about having to put us up higher than you in order for us to do it. And so,
because by us having that expertise does not automatically mean that we are immune from struggle in
yeah,
any way. Thais and I struggle just as much as everyone else. And we try to be really real about that because, we're not here to create this illusion of like rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. Although, don't get me wrong,
there's some plenty of amazing fucking experiences.
and
And
we'd both be really happy with rainbows and sunshine and unicorns all day, every day.
yeah,
But that's not life.
yeah. And I know that sometimes when we talk about this, people will say, well, I don't want to show the negative part of my life or the struggling part of my life because I want to be a optimistic and happy person and I don't want to drag people down. And I want to create a mindset shift here that when we talk vulnerably and real with you about what's coming up for us, and we do it on platforms like our podcast or our Facebook or whatever, we're not doing it to drag you down. We're doing it because we have learned from our struggles, and we have learned from our pain, and we have learned from the suffering, and we want to share and impart that knowledge with you. So there's nothing wrong with focusing on what's not working and sharing uh, when you've kind of figured it out. Uh, as long as you don't have the second arrow of needing validation from others in order to do it.
Hmm.
So we don't share because we need you to support us. We don't share because we need you to comment and say that you love us. We share because that's just who we are. And if that impacts you, that's great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. We don't seek your validation. And so without that emotional attachment to you, it allows us to show up in a bigger way.
Yeah. And I think, Thais and I talk about this a lot. How do we share vulnerably and allow it to be a learning experience? And so, another mindset shift that I would offer, Thais just mentioned, is that struggle doesn't necessarily mean negative. Like, failure doesn't necessarily mean negative. Like, what is the opportunity and the possibility within the struggle and within the failure that you can take away from it?
Hmm.
And so I think that those are the powerful nuggets that really transform and really create impact on social media. And so both of us try to come from that place a lot,
Yeah.
when we're sharing about the things that we've gone through, both on social media and, we've spoken at conferences and all of those things. So,
I lead a 3-day intensive in my business for women who want to step into the spotlight. And we have a whole session on social media for leaders. And it's something that not only Bri and I have had many conversations on, but it's something that I've personally been navigating a lot, which is how do we use social media as a platform to to create a movement, as opposed to using social media and using social media just as something that everyone else uses, right? There is a difference, and the difference starts with intention. And so part of sharing vulnerably is setting the intention that you want to use your life as a platform for a movement, as opposed to you using your life and just sharing that you ate a bagel for breakfast, right? There's a real difference, and you can tell the difference between the accounts that you follow that have the intention of leading a movement versus the accounts that you follow that just use social media to showcase their life. And I encourage you as a leadership coach, but we encourage you as two leaders of a movement that if to use social media as a platform for good requires you to really be intentional with what you write and what you post. And that doesn't mean that you have to be it can't be authentic and it can't be real in the moment. It just means asking yourself before you share anything and before you post anything, why? Why am I sharing this? What is the intention behind it?
and what value are you adding to people's
Yes,
lives?
yes.
I mean, that's a really good filter to look at your Facebook shares through, is really how can you use, your struggle to support people, or how can you use your successes not to brag but to show people what's possible for them. And it's
Exactly.
it's a fine line, but it's a completely different energy. And so I would encourage you, when you're looking at other people's social media posts, do they add value to your life? And if not, honestly,
Unfollow.
unfollow them.
Unfollow. It's so funny. I just had this conversation the other day where someone comes up to us and we're talking about Facebook, and he goes, "I'm just tired of Facebook. I hate the things that people write on, are that's on my feed. Like it's just so negative and I just hate it." And I said to him, "Well, why don't you unfollow those people?" And to him, that was his mind was blown because he was just so okay with complaining and hating on Facebook and completely relinquished the knowledge that he actually had total control over his experience. And so unfollow people that don't make you feel good and don't even question it. Don't even act like if somebody doesn't feel good, unfollow them. It doesn't matter if they're the most amazing person in the world. If it triggers you, if it sparks comparitis, if you feel really bad about yourself after reading their post, unfollow them. Stop adding, stop allowing them to run your life. You get to create the experience of Facebook. And on my Facebook feed, I have nobody who doesn't share my point of view because I don't want to have people on my feed that aren't aligned with the type of person I am and that I'm becoming. And
Which I agree with. And I actually just read a study about that, and how people are only surrounding themselves with other people that basically agree with them. And it's actually it can actually be a little bit, depending on the extent to which you take it, can actually be a little bit unhealthy, because it's you're not challenging your beliefs. And I'm not to say that I know you challenge your beliefs all the time, but a lot of people use it as like, well, I'm not going to follow anyone that has different religious beliefs as me,
Oh.
because I just want to surround myself with my rose colored glasses that
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
right about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And basically reconfirming everything about who I am in the world, and I'm only going to follow people that believe the same things.
Well, actually, to add another study that I know from my psychology studies is that I forget the name, but when you add like a room filled with Democrats and then you add another room filled with Republicans, the person that's the most liberal or the most conservative in either group will literally alienate the group further away from each other. Does that make sense? So if you have two rooms, one room is Republicans and one room is Democrats, and not saying either one's better or not, we're just making a statement here. But when you add in people that are more liberal or more conservative into those rooms, it literally alienates the parties. It makes them further away from each other in terms of center. So when they took a test after they were exposed in that group, the people in the liberal, in the Democratic room consider themselves even more liberal than before. Here's what else is interesting. When you add a Republican into the room of Democrats and you add a Democrat to the room of Republicans, the group comes back into the middle. And so I like that, Bri. I think that's true. And maybe I need to reevaluate kind of my funneling system in Facebook. I think what I have done is just made sure that I wasn't following anyone that would that's negative and
Yeah,
that's just a complainer and that's just a blah blah blah. But I
which
certainly,
I have done as well.
if somebody entertains like a really clear, thoughtful post on a political issue that is opposed to mine, but he presents or she presents it in a way that's really well articulated, then I would have no problem not only with that person on my feed, but having that conversation.
Yeah.
I think what I really don't like is bigotry, racism, and these opinions that people have that I feel just really yucky about. And I want to choose an experience on online that makes me feel good. But I'm so glad that you brought that up because I think, nothing is black and white, and we want to make sure that anything that we do has the right energy to it.
Totally.
And you don't want to you don't want to like cut out opposing views just because it doesn't make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a way of having opposing views and have it be okay. So thanks for bringing that up. That's
You're
really cool.
so welcome. I'm so glad I read on the internet all the time.
All the time.
Guess where I saw that come through on?
Where? Facebook.
Because it's like the only news source that I peruse on a
Pretty
regular
much.
basis.
It's so bad. All right. So I hope that this conversation is helping you guys kind of understand a little bit more of how we navigate the online world and our perspective around social media in general. Because I think that in a world where there is just so much content and so much knowledge and so much information out there, it's important that we're looking at it and we're handling it in a way that makes us feel really good. And that's
Yeah.
something that Bri and I really focus on is, does it feel good?
Yep.
If Instagram doesn't make you feel good, if it doesn't excite you, then don't fucking be on it. You don't have to be on any social media channel you don't want. And I will argue with anyone who says that you have to be on a certain platform. I don't think so. I think you have to be on whatever platform is going to excite you.
Yeah.
If that's not Facebook, cut Facebook. I know people who completely deleted their personal account and they only have a Facebook business account. So you have to have a personal account to have a business account, but they've deleted their personal account and created a new one that no one knows of. And they just run their business account. And that makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they don't have to, compare themselves on other people. So
Yeah.
you have to find a way to navigate social media in a way that feels really good. And that's a commitment that Bri and I make every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's one last topic that we want to cover before signing off for the day. And I know it's one that's kind of close to Thais's heart because something happened recently that did not feel good on social media. And that is, how do you deal with the haters?
The haters, the trolls. I remember when I was on Periscope. Remember that was a thing for a while? And with Periscope, it was a completely open platform. And so because I have a Brazilian name, a lot of people came on my Periscope that were Brazilian, and they, I mean, okay, I don't want to say that all Brazilians were doing this, but they were saying like, show your boobies and woo boobies and booby, and it was everything boobies, and it threw me off my game. I was trying to share some pretty, heart touching stuff about my life or whatever it is, and to have those trolls come on, it just threw me off. Ooh, Ooh, or that one time I remember going onto someone's Periscope and someone had written that their sole purpose of being on that person's scope was to troll them, and they had a following that they would just go from account to account and troll the heck out of them, and they even had a word for it, which I forget, but they would have like 1,000 users go into someone's Periscope just to troll them, and that's really hurtful and that's really painful. And let's talk about it, because I think that the more we can understand haters and trolls and understand the right point of view and the right way to handle it, the easier it's going to be when it ever happens to us.
Well, and there's one thing that, people have always told me. I started writing for the Huffington Post about 2 years ago.
Oh, actually,
And
I need you to talk about that experience, please. When you had your post go viral and
yeah, so everyone always told me since I started writing for the Huffington Post was never read the comments. Don't ever read the comments. And for the most part, I don't get a whole lot of comments on most of my blogs, but the blog that did go viral, the blog that landed me on the Today Show, absolutely has a lot of comments. I think it has over 1,000 comments.
oh my gosh.
And I can say I have personally read every single one of them. I totally went against the advice of the people that know best and read them. And, not all of them were negative. There were some really great ones that I'm really, really feel blessed that I shared my story and that I read their comments. Like one woman who had a surgery that similar to what I had and had it 30 years ago and never felt safe telling anyone ever
Wow.
until she read my blog. And that was a really fulfilling comment.
Did you tell them about what your blog was about?
Oh, maybe. I don't, for those of you that don't know, I wrote a blog about being child free and how I've known for pretty much my entire life that I don't want to have children. And I chose to have surgery so that I cannot have children. And I'm very
Mm.
open about it. And so I'd written a blog about all the shit that I get for being a child free woman, both, from growing up, ex boyfriends, guys I've dated now, and people that just really judge all over me. And then the medical professional that actually denied me from having my surgery for 6 years because as a woman, I was too young and couldn't make decisions about what was best for my body. So
Wow.
if you're interested, you can go to huffingtonpost.com/Bri-Seeley. And it's from August of 2014. So you have to look back a little bit, but you can find it. So one of the comments, though, of course, there's that old saying that it's one bad apple is all it takes to ruin the bunch.
Well, it's negativity bias.
Yeah, and so it's one comment that I might never forget for my entire life. And this guy had commented on there and was like, "You are going to die alone."
Wow.
And it's so funny that how all of the amazing comments and all of the support I received and so many people that shared it and loved on me and just it was such a great experience. And it's amazing how almost 2 years later, I still carry that one comment around with me.
Well, it's negativity bias. Let's thank our biology for that. You know, our mind it remembers the negative stuff because that's the stuff that we're in most danger. Our body, our mind feels like we're in danger. And so we have to remember the negative stuff so that we can stay safe. But it's unfortunate in the context of things that we're not really feeling threatened by, such as hateful comments or trolling on the internet, because it's so easy for us to stay focused on those things and not the millions of comments. For me, it's not necessarily haters, but there's definitely times where I will share something that's really heartfelt and I put a lot of love into it and I feel like it's something that's, really deep for me, and I get no likes. And I get like nothing. And so it's not necessarily haters, but it's the emptiness. It's the two likes. And, you know, then I forget all of the other posts that I've written and all the other things that I've shared where I've received tons of likes and tons of comments of people saying that they needed to hear it and thank you and it changed their lives. And I forget all of it when I look at that one post that got 2 likes or 3 or whatever. And so it's the same thing in our minds, which is, we feel a threat. We feel almost like we're invalidated as a human being because of it. Like, I'm sure in Bri's mind, there was a whole slew of thoughts about, maybe she did the wrong thing and is she going to die alone? And is this real? And is this bad? And so part of dealing with haters and dealing with trolls and dealing with the emptiness is a full on commitment to who you are as an individual, knowing that your worth is not determined by what's on the internet.
And I think so much of it for me too is knowing my truth. Yes, that comment stayed with me and I have never once doubted my decision. Like, I know my truth so solidly and so passionately that I don't doubt that I made the right decision. Yes, the comment hurt me. Yes, it wasn't fun to read. Yes, maybe I had a moment, well, actually I just wanted to fight back with him. That's of course my instinct, but it's really truly knowing beyond any reasonable doubt, beyond any doubt that your mind could throw at you, knowing in your heart your truth and your purpose.
And that's why spiritual practice comes into play. I mean, my entire business was created around supporting women find their worth and the conversation of worthiness and feeling enough. And part of understanding your worth is really connecting to a spiritual practice that allows you to connect to the love within you, that essence of love that doesn't change, the essence of love that just permeates your being. And the more you can connect with that, as Bri calls it, her truth, which is, all the same thing, it's all the same. And when we can connect to it on a deep basis, like this is fundamentally who I am, a being of light, of God, of the universe, a child of stardust, right? When we can connect again and again to who we truly are, beyond the identities and the labels, beyond the stories and the beliefs, beyond all of that, then nothing that happens outside of us can shake us. And so anytime it does shake you, just know that it's an indication whether you have work to do. Use any time that you have an emotional reaction towards somebody, whether it's like somebody saying you're ugly to someone writing that as a comment. If it shakes you from your foundation, from that home base that is within you, then you've lost your power, which is great. It's simply an opportunity for you to then investigate why that comment created such a reaction within you. Because here's the deal. If I were to say to Bri, I don't like the color of your car, she would like look at me like, okay, that's nice. Like it wouldn't affect her at all because that doesn't have any triggers around her. But this guy's comment at that time in her life did arise something in her. And the same thing for me. And so it's important that we then not look at the other person, as easy as that can be, but to look within ourselves and to ask, why do I believe that this is true? Why do I believe that this is making something mean about me? What am I making it mean? And that's an indication that that's where you need love, and that's where you need compassion and understanding.
So I know, it's easy to look at someone outside of you that I have no connection with this man. I don't know where he lives or who he is or anything about him, versus when someone that is within your circle says something to you. And I know that you had an experience not that long ago of someone that did this to you online.
Yeah, someone that I knew. I mean, she's attended some of our events, or she's been planning, or she's just been in my radius. And I wrote something on Facebook that I just didn't know. Like I didn't know something, and I wrote that. I was like, I didn't know, and here we go. This is what I've learned from not knowing. And she responded with a lot of angst and hate at how could I have possibly not known, like almost as if I'm a stupid idiot for not knowing. And it really hurt my feelings because in many ways I have this illusion of safety and on my Facebook page. I have this illusion that the people that are on my Facebook page only love and support me, which is totally false illusion. So thank you for this individual, this angel, for showing me that anything that you post online is not safe. And two, it immediately made me want to shut down. And that's something that I want to talk to you guys about. Immediately, my reaction was, I don't feel safe. I never want to share again. Why the fuck am I putting myself out there? And that's a natural inclination, of course, when you feel violated in some capacity. And you have to remember that you can either focus on this individual or the other hateful comments, or on all the other comments that you've received and all those opportunities where you have shared and it's been received well. You get to choose what you focus on.
It's so interesting because Thais wants to withdraw, and my natural tendency is to fight and defend myself.
Yeah.
And like talk back and like really, kind of go at them head to head.
Yeah. And I had a conversation when I immediately got that comment, first thing I wanted to do was delete it. And I had to sit with it because one of my rules is I never respond from a place of fear. Ever. Never, never, never. I will never respond from a place of fear as much as I can. I really try to hold myself back and pull back and really get clear with the emotion that I'm experiencing and what's going on. So then I immediately felt a total compassion for all the women in the world who have been shamed. all the women in the world who has felt unsafe in sharing their voice, because we live in such a privileged society as Western women, and being able to use social media where there's so many women and our sisters in the Middle East and our sisters in Africa and the world around us who are shut down, and who are shamed to an even bigger level. So I immediately felt compassion for all of them. And then once I started finding more clarity, I called my mom and I said, Mom, what do I do? Do I respond to her? Like, what do I do? And my mom goes, "Do you know how much hate Obama gets? I mean, he gets a lot of hate. And he doesn't have time to sit there and respond to every single hate that he gets. Any president gets a lot of hate because we live in a country that's very divided. So no matter, who the president is and how good the person is, he's going to receive a lot of hate, and he just doesn't have time to focus on that. And so I made a choice. I don't have time to focus on this. I have other better things to do. And so I didn't respond. But that doesn't mean that's not always the time to respond. You really have to decide that for yourself. But most of the times, don't respond. Delete, forgive, move on, because responding only perpetuates that anger, the fear, and you don't need that energy in your life. And you're a busy boss, lady or man, you have shit to do. Go focus on that. It took me a hot second to forgive her, but eventually I did, and I moved on. And I think that that's the way that you should respond with pretty much every hater. Like, why engage? They're clearly coming from a place of fear. They're clearly coming from a negative place. So why would you perpetuate it by adding fuel to their fire?
I love it. I think that's a really, really good point for us to kind of wrap up our conversation for today.
Yeah. So as you're navigating the online world and as you're figuring out how to feel really empowered around social media, know that you have a choice. You have a choice of how you allow social media to influence your life. You can choose to let it add to your life and use it as a tool for offline relationships, and use it as a vessel for your message as a leader. Or you can get bogged down into its negativity and respond to haters and just feel really a lot of shame and guilt and compare-itis and loneliness and depression.
I mean, yeah. So we support you guys and we love you guys, and we of course, want you to come at it from a place of compassion and expansion. And if there's anything you need support around with this, always know that you can reach out to us. You can find us on all the social media channels at The Amplify Co. And we are newly on Snapchat, like we said. So come find us on Snapchat, and you can see fabulous photos of us podcasting in our unglamorous location with no makeup on. And we still do it with a smile, because it's not about how it looks, how glamorous it looks. It's about the fact that we're here to deliver a fucking message.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and don't shut up. If there's anything you can take away from this, is don't shut up. Keep sharing your shit. Share your love. Share your message. Share your voice. Share your story. Share it. It doesn't matter how many people like it. The way I think of it is that just because people don't like it doesn't mean people don't need it. We need more light workers in the world, and we need us light workers to rise. Use social media as a tool for your message, for your movement. I can talk about this all day. Go big, all right? And use this tool for you, not against you.
And don't forget to come join us at Blow in Brentwood on the 22nd. I think it's the 22nd. I don't have my calendar in front of me right now. Anyways, amplifybdb.eventbrite.com. We can't wait to see you guys. And until then, go be amplified.